We're looking at Isaiah chapter 2, verse 12, that has the Hebrew word ki, which in our channel we are understanding as either the conditional conjunction if, sometimes translatable as when there's an expectation something will happen or has happened, and also the complementizer. And now, if you don't know what a complementizer is, I'm going to link in the top right hand corner. I'll link to a video explaining what complementizers are. Now, for us to dive into this text, we need to get some context. So we'll scroll up a bit, and I'll just read from the English. I don't feel like translating all of this off the cuff. So this is a condemnation of Israel and how they're filled with different forms of evil. So the land is filled with silver and gold, and there is no end to their treasures. The land is filled with horses, and there is no end to their chariots. So I just the money itself is not having gold is not itself bad. Neither is having horses. It's the way that they got these things and at whose expense they got them, and the fact that they did it in ways that are contrary to God's laws. That's the problem. But the land is filled with idols. They bow down to the work of their hands, to what their own fingers have made. So man is humbled, each one is brought low. Do not forgive them. Enter into the rock and hide in the dust from before the terror of the Lord and the splendor of his majesty. The haughty looks of man shall be brought low, and the lofty pride of men shall be humbled, and the Lord alone will be exalted in that day. Then we have ki. A day is possessed by Yahweh of armies against every proud and lifted up thing, against every this one should be lifted up and this one should be exalted. So against every proud and exalted thing, and against every lifted up thing, that it might be humbled. And then the list goes on, talking about cedars and oaks and mountains and hills and towers and ships, so things that are generally quite high. And we want to then ask, well, is the Lord opposed to the mountains that he made? Is he angry at trees? Well, of course not. We can see that it is the pride of man that's being talked about. It's man who's going to be humbled. It's man who's going to be brought low. And that's the same word here for brought low is the same word as down here where all that is lifted up should be brought low. And we have here in verse 11, the haughty looks of man will be brought low, same word, and the lofty pride of man shall be humbled, and the Lord alone will be exalted in that day. So this is not about trees and mountains. These trees and mountains and ships and all of that are symbolic of arrogant people. And for the Lord alone to be exalted in that day, this statement needs to be said because people are exalting themselves. Man seems to be exalted, and Yahweh doesn't seem to be exalted based on how people are living in the world. So he's going to humble all the proud, and he alone will be exalted in that day. So this is the context where we have a clear prophecy up here about this coming day of, well, this coming time when humanity is going to be humbled. We have a command for people to run and hide from the terror of the Lord, and from the splendor of his majesty, and this declaration that proud people are going to be punished. Then we have ki, and we have this statement about how the Lord has a day against every one that is arrogant and proud, and it goes on for multiple verses listing tall objects that are symbolic of proud people. So how are we going to understand this word ki? Well, I don't think it makes a lot of sense as a conditional conjunction if, unless we want to think about it as saying that this previous prophecy is only true if the Lord has a day against everything that is proud and lofty. And I just don't think that Isaiah would make philosophical speculations about how proud people will be humbled if and only if the Lord happens to have a day when he plans on humbling them. I don't think Isaiah is that type of author where he philosophizes across possible situations. So we're going to go with the complementizer approach. So as a complementizer, there are three ways to understand it. One as being part of an inferential construction, and I'll link in the top right-hand corner uh, a video explaining to you what inferential constructions are, and you will see proof there that they are communicated by just the Hebrew word key. So as an inferential construction, it's very possible that Isaiah is, so what's an inferential construction? You would translate it as, it is that the Lord has a day. So as an inferential construction, he could be looking at the whole prophecy that came before and then drawing an inference from it. So why? What possible inferences? Well, there's one of two ways. One is, uh, what is the reason or what is the cause for this humiliation that's coming? Well, it must be because the Lord has a day. Or this could be interpreting this whole statement as saying, because we have this phrase here, the Lord be exalted in that day. So that all of this humiliation has to take place on a certain day or a certain time. So this infers that the Lord has a specific day, that all of these events are going to take place, where there'll be humiliation and terror and all of that. And it's specifically aimed against those who are proud and they don't view the Lord as exalted, but view themselves as exalted, or view human beings as exalted over God. So that's the inferential interpretation. The second interpretation possibility is an elaborative. And again, I'll place a video link in the top right-hand corner at some point that explains what elaborative constructions are and proves that they are instantiated across the world's languages with just the complementizer that. Now, what would an elaborative construction here mean? It would mean that it's providing for us an interpretation. So it's elaborating on what came before in a different way. So this whole statement of people being humiliated because of their rebellion and pride. Uh, he elaborates then, saying that, well, them being humiliated because of their rebellion and pride on a certain day. Well, what does that mean? He elaborates, meaning, well, the Lord has a specific day. So that is, the Lord has a specific day when he's going to be opposed to everything that's proud and arrogant. He's going to punish it. So that's the elaborative understanding. And the final one is the contextual comment understanding. The privilege context understanding. And I'll at some point link a video in the top right hand corner that will explain to you what this is. But I'll just give you the application here. So in this understanding, we have this prophecy, and then we have key, the complementizer that, and then we have context that's provided to help us understand the previous prophecy. So even though I'll have linked the video, or I will have linked the video, I'll give you a brief explanation. So what Spanish speakers do is they make a statement, they say a complementizer, and then they follow it up with another sentence that justifies the first sentence or provides the necessary context for understanding the first sentence or the first speech act. So all of this about man being humbled and God being against Israel because of the idolatry of their hands and their lust for money is to be understood in light of the fact that the Lord has a specific day when he plans on humbling all the proud people. So those are our three possibilities: the inferential approach, the elaborative approach, and the privileged context approach. And in case you're thinking to yourself, how can one language have all of these constructions? Well, Spanish does. So Spanish speakers have all three of these. So we can't negate any of them from being a possibility. These are ways that people use complementizers. And I hope that this helps you make a bit more sense of this text. I'm not sure which one I would prefer the most. Perhaps I like the elaborative the most because it does talk about the day in verse 11, where man is going to be humbled, and then we have this long discussion on this specific day where all the proud will be humbled. So I think of the possibilities, the elaborative seems to work the best, but I can't on that basis say that it's impossible that Isaiah had one of the other two in mind.